Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. There is an Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, starting with a picture of a tree and two birds around that tree. One bird sits in the top branches and simply sits there. And the other bird is always active, jumps up and down and left and right, and always tries to entice the other bird to also join in vain. The one bird that simply sits there, observes, but is not moved no matter what the other bird tries. It's illustrating what is happening all the time. We identify with our mind. We are busy jumping left and right and doing so many things, being concerned, having a lot of things to think about. And there is that other aspect of us that simply is aware of whatever is happening, and yet unaffected, unattached. That aspect is never absent. That active aspect, that personality that we have created, somehow desperately tries to pull the whole of the being on that level, but it's not happening. Then in fact, actually, we forget about the silent bird. We forget about that aspect that is simply there, registering everything, but not in any way inclined to get sucked into that story. Simply see what's going on physically, emotionally, intellectually, all the perceptions. See the play, how it is enriching the experience, but remaining aloof, remaining unattached, unconcerned. Now Mari has asked me to talk a bit more about that, because in a Satsang recently she seemed to have heard that I, by the way, just said that witnessing is going on all the time. Maybe I called it observing, or in another name. This is in context that there is a possibility to detach from what is happening externally or in the psyche, to detach from that by learning to witness. But we don't have to create a witness. If we somehow create a personality, me, I'm witnessing, then it's again part of the game, part of the story. And then we have to create another witness who is witnessing the witness, and then another one, and there is no end to it. To be the witness is more to just withdraw the attention from that mental obsession that is there most of the time with something or other, and bring it back to that silent aspect. Be aware that witnessing is going on all the time. And then Mary says, but yes, then it is so basically so simple. We just have to shift our attention, our viewpoint, and that's exactly it. It's basically very simple. Instead of identifying with all the thoughts and emotions and the personality that we are creating, that thinks I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these emotions, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and they have done this to me, and tomorrow that may happen. All these concerns that we are creating and packing in that me personality, we can detach from that obsession, and just bring it back to that silent aspect. And we become aware it's not necessary to create a witness. It's not necessary to start a new action witnessing. For this witnessing is happening all the time. It's difficult to persuade the habitual personality, the mind, to somehow believe that it is basically so simple. And out of habit, it's so sticky. We don't want to let go. And there is immediately also the fear, but if I let go all that holds me together, then what? Then simply everything disappears. And there is the fear of annihilation. But that which you are cannot be annihilated. It's prior to that personality. It's there when the personality is fully active, in full swing, doing this, doing that, doing so many things. It's there when that personality disappears. Anything that is happening is registered, is seen, and much more than what we are perceiving on the personal level. We have habits of perception. And then Mary asked, but then our world that we are perceiving is just our perception. Well, in a way, yes, in a way, no. There is that energetic, conscious base, which is there. Our daydreams, those worlds, they are totally our perception. And most of the night dreams also are totally our perception. But then in this manifestation, there are bases where you can join in that are basically given. But then after that, what we are doing with it is our own perception. Our own world experience is our own perception. It's that which we are perceiving, but that which we are perceiving is usually totally limited from that standpoint of a me personality separate from the whole rest of existence. And then it becomes most of the time painful, it becomes very limited. But there is that subtle perceiving that is so much vaster than what we usually are aware, what our senses transmit. And that witnessing, that perceiving is happening all the time. So what we have to do is again the same, catching our attention where it's stuck on the sense perceptions, in the thoughts, in the emotions, in everything that we are creating as the me personality. Let go. Just let go, relax, and bring the attention back to that silent bird sitting on the tree who doesn't move, who is aware of everything that is happening. That aspect that is always awake, from where everything is being witnessed without creating a witness. That witnessing is happening all the time. Yes, Mary, it is so simple. We just have to shift the attention, the perspective. What seems to make it so difficult is that the habit pulls us relentlessly away from that. And because we have been functioning like this over a long time, that habit has its force, quite a force, and it seems to be a tremendous work to detach from that. It seems to be so difficult, but we can learn to go about it more in a playful way, and then it stops looking so difficult. And if we keep on doing that, then gradually it becomes easier, and eventually what appeared to be so difficult becomes simple and easy. What is needed is that sincerity, that we really go about it. It is easy, but we have to do it because we are doing otherwise so much to do the opposite. And that is the one thing we somehow have to learn and have to remind ourselves and go about it again and again until that old habit is sufficiently neutralized, that it becomes natural to just let go and be in the present, be in touch with that inner beauty, with that inner divinity. And then the experience starts to unfold. And that will be different from one story to another in its own unique, beautiful, creative way. Okay, I leave the subject and I'm asking you, my friends, is there anybody who would like to say something? You're welcome to come in. Ah, there was also a second question from Mary. Actually, it was not so much a question, observing also. We had already talked about the same subject some 2 years ago, maybe, when it was quite acute, that she used to wake up always. There was tremendous fear, and we have talked about it, how to deal with it. And sometimes it's still there, but it comes again. And now Mary says, maybe I can just, instead of perceiving it as something terrible, something painful, I can just perceive it as something pleasant. It's not exactly like that. It's not that we have to somehow do some mental gymnastic and try to persuade ourselves that that which we perceive as appalling, that this actually is pleasant. It comes again in the same, to the same subject that we have talked till now. There is that witnessing. If we can, when the fear is there, or any other emotion, if we can detach from that level, from being taken completely into it, and sink back into that which is simply observing that, then that whatever negative feeling we are creating about it starts to disappear. And we are witnessing that feeling also. We see what the experience is doing physically and emotionally and energetically. But that space from where that observation is happening is joyous. So we don't have to create somehow in our mind an idea that I could take it as a pleasure, but more detach from it, come back to that witnessing space, and from here, no matter what you are seeing, you are joyous. And then it doesn't look like a bad experience. Then you can be happy no matter what is happening. So if you wake up and the fear is there, then just accept the experience, accept the fear, accept that you don't like it too much, but then somehow let go of being locked into it and come back to that sense of presence. And here now, there is only joyousness. There is no pain, there is no suffering. And then the fear loses its thread. And then actually all the experiences, they can be enjoyed. Even experiences that we used to not want at all, if we stop resisting and learn to be immersed into that beingness, then all the experiences can be enjoyed. Okay, let's drop that also. And just before I started to talk again, I saw a camera lighting up. If anybody wants to come in now, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, hi, it was me.
Hello, Leela.
Yeah, thank you for your opening. It was yeah, it was good for me to hear, and also to put the light on how confused I am in regards to dealing with all you have mentioned. Because sometimes I feel very not identified, and I have been feeling that the personality is not so much in the front. Yeah, absolutely. I can feel that. Actually, in a way, sometimes I feel I've lost the personality. I know it's not possible, but something about it is like I'm sensing. And also, I told you last week also that sometimes I don't know if I'm connected or pressing down, pressing away,
Mm-hmm.
moving away all the difficult emotions and all the opinions also, and whatever would disturb me from. I go like that, like being in the direction, and I just want to also add this thing what happened with my friend who said she'd rather have a war than take care of returning all the kidnapped people, which is going with me, has been going with me. And then she asked me on the WhatsApp, that's what we do these days. We don't call the person, we solve problems on the WhatsApp. And she asked me if I didn't want to be in touch with her. And I said, I'm sorry, but after you said that, I just can't. And I feel that this is part my personality, my opinions, and so, but partly unknown area, unfamiliar space, which brought me to say to her very bluntly, I just can't be in touch with you. Because part of it is cruel. It feels cruel. It feels, well, not nice to say to a person who was a good friend. So there's lots of confusion.
Now you're wondering whether it was right or wrong that you cut her off.
No, I'm not wondering. I just don't know. No, I don't want to be in touch with her. I know that, but it's tough. It's tough, and when it's so tough, I don't know if it's tough on her. As far as I know her, she takes things like that very easily. She has this way of doing things anyway. But for me, it feels very tough. I feel I took a very tough decision, which is maybe not for the best of all involved, as they say.
Yeah.
For the world, for the energy in the world, I don't know. It's confusing.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, you do what you feel is right. And sometimes doing what you feel is right is basically always simple, but it may not be the most comfortable. It may be uncomfortable to do what one feels is right, but it's simple to do so. And if you do so, then you can very well go that way. At the same time, you need not have any negative feelings for anybody about their opinions, because the poor people are totally brainwashed from the media and influenced and distanced from their natural state. So all kinds of funny things comes out, but still you have the right to choose with whom you are making contact and with whom not.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. And being yourself means more and more that one sinks back in the self and not holding on to the me personality that I have to defend.
So if I can stop you here and just ask, maybe you can answer later. How can I see the difference between the two? The personality and where I am in the personality or the true self. Where am I? It's
Your attention may a bit go to and fro. You, the being, always is here and always available. It's not that sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there. You are always here, timelessly now. The personality comes, springs into being, and then we may let go of grosser aspects of the personality, but still create subtler aspects. And then it feels like the person is gone, but in a way we just have made the personality more refined. And so the attention may then flip between sinking back on just beingness and then come again into the new subtler personality that is still a personality. You know, there is nothing wrong that we have that capacity to produce a personality. What is wrong is that we identifying to the point with it that we completely forget about that which is prior. And so the job is to come back more and more to that which is prior to a personality. And usually the process is that the personality gets more refined and subtler, and then it feels, oh, I'm not more the same person like before. And it's also true, but still it's a person. It's that which makes the experience possible, that which is silently witnessing the whole story, that is what is prior to the personality.
That is that witnessing, you say. It has nothing to do with me.
Not with the person, Lila. It has to do with you as what you are, that divine being.
It has to do something with the connection with what's around me.
I mean, you are connected with everything around you, with everything. That connection is there. The difference is how we are seeing it, how we are perceiving it, how we are interpreting everything.
So the perceiving also becomes finer somehow?
Yes, sure. Yes.
Yeah.
The more you learn to be conscious and alert, the subtler, the finer becomes the perceiving, right?
Yeah, just like the personality.
Yes.
Okay. So then I can keep on going, crying when I need to cry, at the same time standing with my both feet on the ground and let my heart open and pray that, pray, continue.
Right. And
Which,
yes, and when you let that crying happen, then you become aware in the experience. Even if there is sadness and you cry, then you become aware there is something that is not involved in it, that is not touched by it. Somehow, it's funny, I had experienced that very clearly already as a young boy, because I had a bit the habit when something really pissed me off and everything was wrong, then I went up the stairs and lay in my bed and cried.
Yeah.
And after a minute, I cried, and then I become aware, hey, there is something that is absolutely not sad there. But then somehow I couldn't just stop crying. I had the feeling I have to play my role out and kept on crying. But at the same time, I was very quickly aware, hey, wait a minute. why do I continue crying? Because there is something that is not sad there. So you can let the crying happen, and if you really full-heartedly let it happen and relax, then immediately you are also touching that aspect of you that is not affected by the emotions, that is there and watches it and is perfectly all right, no matter what is happening.
Well, that's a point, to not be affected. Yeah. So what brought me to want to disconnect from this friend? Part of it is emotions, or I don't even know what actually brought me to be so insisting on that. I'm not sure there were emotions there. I didn't really feel any emotions about it. I just said to myself, I just can't do it.
Right, some emotions must have been there, and what she said has so totally opposed what you feel is right, and then the reaction was okay. Then better keep a distance. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe if eventually you feel like making contact again, you can as well do so. You don't have to make a decision for life.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's a lot for now.
I think so. Huh?
Yeah.
Shall we leave
Yeah.
it? Hurry on. Hurry on.
Thank you, Mario.
Is there anybody else who would like to come? What I told just before, that story from my childhood, it was interesting later when I became more aware that a lot of things I had already recognized very clearly as a little boy. And I think many children are doing that. But then growing up and going through the usual mill of being pushed in a certain direction, then somehow a lot of it was forgotten. And then later, when things started to clear up, we came with so many aspects clear. Hey, I knew that already when I was a little boy. It was so clear, it was so obvious, but somehow, with the busyness of the mind and the world, it just gradually disappeared. And after that, it had to be rediscovered as if it was something new, but deep down, it was already very clear. And I think with most of the people, something similar is happening. I see a camera is on. Lisa, did you want to come in and say something? No, you just have the camera on, because usually everybody turns the camera off if they don't want to talk. Is there anybody else who would like to come in and say something? You're welcome. Nobody wants to talk? There comes Andreas. If nobody else wants to talk, Andreas comes.
Also, I'm getting more and more into the danger that I'm asking the same question again and again. When I try to be more present,
yes,
as far as I understand it, there's no really sign by which I can recognize that it's going in the right direction, right? But there's signs to show that it's like, yeah.
There are signs. They are not very strong and clear, but there are signs that sometimes suddenly you recognize, in this situation, some time ago, in the past, it's obvious I would have reacted much stronger or more obsessive, sometimes maybe violent or sometimes destructive. And then when that suddenly you recognize, actually I'm dealing with a situation that would have done that to me much easier. And then if this kind of pointers are there, you can be sure you're going in the right direction.
Sometimes I have the feeling that I'm getting more present, but the personality is still there, as far as I can tell. Like it's always, yeah.
Yeah.
Or is there always, is it more, or is there are there sometimes moments where it shifts and then you're really present and then the personality kicks in again with the thinking? Or is it more that you just gradually become a little bit more aware, but this personality is always in the background, and if it really happens, it's a complete shift.
You know, it's not that eventually you just shift from the personality and then that personality is gone and there is something else that goes, the attention goes to and fro, and actually it does that also with people who never even try to be quiet, that every now and then, many times in a daytime, the attention simply sinks back to that beingness. But it's not recognized. And then a situation comes, a thought comes, an emotion comes, and boom, the attention is again totally in the old story. But it's always shifting to and fro, this attention. And it's not that when you drop being attached to that personality, that after that it's just so, and this personality never comes. As long as this body exists, as long as you appear as a human being, we can become and present a personality whenever it is necessary, whenever the situation requires it. But what is shifting is that we stop identifying and see it as a role that we are playing. But the capacity to appear as a person will be there as long as this body appears in this world.
And the recognizing of the beingness, how is that, or how does that happen?
By being, not by thinking. By being, not by analyzing. By simply coming back to that silence that is so nourishing. Where we can stay conscious, at least some moments, some time, where we are not always thinking. Not trying to desperately control and suppress the thoughts, but just being relaxed, taking rest in that simple, natural beingness. And I'm sure you have many, many experiences like this, but don't torture your mind too much and start to put the label. Now I really reached, and now I was close, and now that's no good, and and stand always in judgment about everything that is happening. Just be, relax. And then when you become aware that thoughts disturb you, that emotions are bubbling up, then let them come, observe them, let them go, and relax. and relax as good as you can, and not even wondering, have I now really reached that state of being? That being is always there. And sometimes the attention sinks deeper in it, and sometimes we just come close at the surface, but already it's a relief, and already it feels so much lighter than in the usual mental stuff. It's the experience for most of the people is progressing. There was the story of Ramana Maharshi, who suddenly shifted. But still, that was the beginning of really going deeper and deeper and expanding the consciousness. It's not like some people think that with 17 he had his enlightenment and that was the end of the story. No, it was the beginning of the story. And somehow, in a way, you can say, although that beingness doesn't change, but the experience of that gets more powerful, more expansive, and continues to unfold in different ways.
But when the identification with the personality drops away, isn't that a shift, or is that a gradual process?
That is most of the time a gradual process. It's getting easier, moments where you drop that identification and then it overwhelms you again, and then you'll drop it again, and then it overwhelms you again, and gradually it's getting easier. There can happen a moment where you really rotate in a new perspective, that the old habit still wants to come in and overwhelm again, but from that perspective it's so much easier to see, and and you don't take it serious anymore.
Like
There can be a sudden shift, but then those shifts can be of different magnitude from one person to another, and from wherever you are. When you find yourself on a new level, on a new perspective, there you don't stop. You just keep that alertness and let the experience unfold easier. But usually when you sincerely shift the attention from one level to the other, then so many things that seem to be difficult become easy. Instead of struggling through the undergrowth and the thorny bushes in the forests, it's like you have reached a very nice footpath and can happily walk on it.
What's the role of the body in it, or the attention to the body? Like, is it, because sometimes, yeah, I feel it's grounding me, but I'm not very good at like watching my breath, for example, in the belly and relaxing the legs. Mm-hmm. So this seems to be helpful, doesn't it?
It is helpful, definitely. It's one way of detaching the attention from the mental obsessions, and energetically it helps. It gives a good, right, it grounds, and it gives a stable base if you do these kind of things. The body in this whole process is necessary. That's the whole game, that the being projects into in this world, in this material world, to experience all this through a body with its own limitations, the body, but at the same time, it's something very special. Subtle beings on subtler levels, they're looking often greedily uh, uh, about all this sense perception down on that level, about all these sense perceptions, because there is an intensity in it that is quite unusual. So it's not an enemy, the body. We can integrate the body we don't have to be obsessed with the body. We don't have to pamper the body, but and be so totally like now everybody is so obsessed with the appearance and all that comes with it. But to experience those energies, the consciousness that flows through the physical body, the love that flows through the physical body is having a very special intensity. And so this human form is designed that the experience, the inner experience, can grow and unfold very rapidly.
And is there, like when you meditate, should I stick with the body experience, or is there a certain moment where it's more helpful to like open up and try to focus on being?
Yes, focus on being. The body is simply there anyhow. You don't have to get stuck on that level. It can be very helpful to feel the body sensations, to bring the attention back to the present. Because when we are in the mind and flowing around in our dreams about past and future, the other side of the universe and intellectual problems, and then if you shift to your body sensations, it brings you right to the now. And now you are in touch with life. Now we are in touch with the essence, only now. But then we don't have to keep the attention fixed on the sensation levels of the body, but you can very well relax in that, and in that relaxing, the attention automatically sinks deeper towards the source, towards the essence, towards that which makes the experience possible.
Yeah, but there's really nothing where I can focus on, right? It's more like for me, it feels like more like just like a presence, but without a real object.
Yes, because you are that. So it's not an object. You are that beingness. So you cannot have the one you that is up after that focusing on the other you.
Okay.
The intellect simply cannot quite follow, cannot reach quite here. But if sometimes it happens, you may have been meditating for some time and everything just totally goes quiet. And you feel that automatically it's also quite an energetic shift for that moment. And in that moment, there is not a problem, there is not a wondering and anxiety about tomorrow or about the yesterday or what anyone thinks, but you are just at ease, at peace. Then that is a clear sign that your attention has sunk back to beingness. And then, of course, when we start to analyze it, then we are already slipping out of it. When we start to sort of wanting to make it into a new category that we can safely put in a drawer and think, now I understood.
If at all, I only have very short moments of this. I never have like longer periods as far as right now that I really, yeah.
Anyhow, the short moments are already as a manifestation of grace. So focusing on beingness means simply letting go all focuses that go anywhere. But if you focusing, for example, somebody practices and focuses on the breath, that being aware of the breath is not standing in the way of being really in that beingness. That can simultaneously be there, but then there is when that happens, then there is just breathing and not all the other stories simultaneously also going on.
Yeah, you said that you can be very focused on one point and
Yes.
still be very open.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I have to learn that.
Because if we don't have something to hold on in with our attention in our mind, it's easy to fool oneself. One can get in a relatively pleasant state of mind and a bit settle down there and dream away without being aware that we're just a bit floating on the same level, which is pleasant, but it's still actually the mind going on and producing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this might happen sometimes.
This, of course, is bound to happen to somebody who meditates, but then we can recognize it. And even if one aspect wants to keep it and say, okay, it's not that important, and just bring it back to some kind of focus that brings you consciously in touch with what is. Okay.
Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Very open.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? We would like to have our spiritual path mapped out, that we can always check where am I standing, that we have some kind of a blueprint that is there, and then we can always check out, am I now here or am I now there? But it doesn't work that way. We just have to become natural what we are. We lost our natural way of being. It was not a wonder that this happened, that we lost that, because the pull, the suggestion, the hypnosis is so strong. When a consciousness comes in this world, appears as a baby, then from all around that influence is so strong that pushing the little pristine and innocent consciousness into certain directions, to function in certain ways, to become and grow in certain ways, so that step by step we're losing that natural touch that is already there. And somehow we have to find that back. When Jesus said to the people, you have to become like the children, didn't mean that people should again behave like children and to go and play in the sandbox and make castles. What he meant is to get that natural, innocent purity back that little babies are having, but from the first moment on, all the surroundings starts to contaminate it. And then when we develop the intellect, the focus is so much on the intellect that we want to everything always check out and understand and have it really the way that I think I understand. It gives the idea of being on top of it, being in control and becoming natural. Coming back to ourselves doesn't work like that. It's not something that we can so step by step see in advance and then always check out where exactly am I standing? You are prior to all that. And each story is different. The consciousness is unfolding in a different way. It's very usual. It's very habitual that then even if there is an experience of peace, that then after that, at least when, if not there in the middle, after that, the intellect springs in and wants to analyze, wants to understand, and wants to categorize it so that we know where we are standing. And that is actually spoiling that experience. Instead, that we learn to stand in awe, in awe, in front of that mystery of existence, of which we are getting a little glimpse when the mind becomes quiet, when there is clarity in consciousness, not clarity in thinking. Clarity in thinking will also be there when the thoughts come back, but just clarity in consciousness. That we experience that awe of that magnificency that is at the same time so simple, and learn to totally open up for that. And so for that, all our habitual ways has to let go. And even the habitual way of wanting to understand what has happened just now, what is happening just now, what is this experience? Has that a special name? Has that a special significance? Just accept that moment of grace, gratefully, that it's opening the heart more to that simple beingness that is so simple and yet cannot be understood. It can be known by being and not by understanding. And so we are not that person who likes to categorize everything and in that way hopes to be on top of it and in control. That habit has to go. That person is not in control, is not on top of the situation. That person is a role that is being played on this material level in this world, in this drama of this world, but is in no way capable of being on top of the situation when you are touching consciously that beingness. We cannot understand, we need not understand, but we can be that. You are that, but we have forgotten and we can get that awareness back. All right, my friends, even when nobody wanted to talk, I'm asking again. Is there anyone who would like to say something?
So,
Yes, you can talk, Lila.
okay. In regards to what you said now, in the Theravada, the way I've been practicing for so many years, all the retreats. So you sit with a teacher.
Mhm.
Also, they give you lists of the 7 powers of this and the way to enlightenment and all these lists that they give you, they teach you. And also you sit with a teacher and I remember myself expecting them to tell me to reflect in what stage am I, or am I so or so in the on the path, you know. So now when I speak to you, and after I've met you a few years ago, and I learned that I do want to hear, to get some feedback from you, but you don't do it somehow. I mean, you react to, you give answers, but I guess the way you've practiced, I don't know, you told us a few times about your path with Amma, but there are no really signs or stages, or yeah, that somebody tells you, here now you have passed first stage and second stage, and now you are enlightened, fully enlightened, or fully happy, or fully whatever.
But if you are fully happy, nobody needs to tell you, then you know that all by yourself.
Well, last week I said something about being an adult. Well, yeah, part of us maybe always remains a child that needs somebody to tell them that we are what we are.
I mean, there are all these traditional teachings with steps, with states, and people who are on them, maybe they are being told by their teacher, yes, now you can, you are advanced to that stage. And for many people, this is helpful just to keep going, that they have the feeling that they are not wasting their time. But these steps are part of the same dream, of the same story that we are creating. And people are different, even if people then in those who go on those traditional paths and feel, they have now mastered this and have now mastered that. That may be so, that they have mastered a certain aspect of something, but whether because of that they are capable of just letting go and be easier, that is another question.
Yeah.
Teachers like Ramana Maharshi or Amma, they haven't told people, now you have advanced to this stage or that stage. But if people had the feeling they have gone now, gotten quite somewhere, they made them aware, hey, don't stop now, just, just continue. Don't have any funny big ideas about that.
Yeah.
So these hierarchies that then they tell you, okay, now you got from stage 7 to stage 8 or whatever, from this stage to that stage, may give an incentive to continue, that you feel, okay, I'm getting somewhere, I'm on the right path, I'm in the right track. But at the same time, it can also create more that new, subtler personality that is less easy to recognize, that me, a spiritual advanced sadhak, that feels quite good about myself in comparison with the whole rest of humanity. This in itself can also be an obstacle again.
Right. Well.
So I'm not encouraging anyone to try to sort of figure out where am I standing. You are here now. You are what you are. And you
Yeah,
yourself,
I have
if you have an honest, good look at yourself, you see where you're producing tensions, where you're producing things that prevent you from being naturally relaxed in your ease, in your peace. And then you remove that as good as you can, and then the me will sneak in one way or another, subtler and subtler. But if we are honest, then we see that, oh, things have changed, the colors have changed. It's not a painful business as before, but still, basically, I'm doing most of the time the same thing, the same mechanisms as before, just subtler, just a bit sneakier. And then we can see that and let that go and be open for that mystery. And there are no steps in that. Really.
There are what? What did you say?
No,
The last.
not really steps. You can you can just catch your attention and turn it in the right direction. You may not be successful of bringing it back home to the center of it, but wherever you catch your attention, you turn it in the right direction. That's what we can do, and no need of making special stages about that. And then about the enlightenment, who is enlightened, who is not enlightened? That being that you are is enlightened, has never been any else, is the light. So it doesn't need to be enlightened. And then you approaching, you may shift into a new perspective. And then we can settle down and think, oh, that's what they talked about. That must be enlightenment. And somehow getting comfortable with that idea, now I'm enlightened. Instead of being just grateful, okay, a lot of the worst struggle has gone, and be again innocent and pure and open like a baby, and see what has happened is that maybe one chapter was finished, but then there, from where I am, the unfolding continues. So where to put that label enlightenment? Because there it's wherever you are, it still continues. It's still.
Yeah, but they use it.
Yeah.
They use this expression.
Yes. I'm shying usually away from that word because now it's something that is sort of quite cheaply available on the market. People go to a few satsangs and it makes a bit click, and then they are being told, yes, that's it, and feel they are enlightened. And then that feeling of being enlightened is more of an obstacle than a help, because then they feel then they don't have to look at their mind anymore. If they create problems and tensions for themselves and others, they say, oh, it's just the mind, it's not me. So and instead of working on that and getting those obstacles out of the way, they just explain it away. That's so I have a bit distanced myself from that expression and stopped dividing humanity in a few enlightened ones and the big majority not enlightened ones.
You have been doing that before?
When I was struggling, then I was always wondering, is this teacher enlightened? Is that teacher enlightened? And stuff like that. Or are they just playing? Are they just pretending? And then eventually, the whole thing didn't make sense. You are that lightful being, and so is every teacher. And some are fully aware of that, and some they may not be fully aware of that, but still they have a certain touch and dive into that again and again, and because of that, something very beautiful can flow through them to you.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
And
Beautiful.
some people may also just have heard the teaching and think they have understood, and that gives a certain amount of mental relaxation, thinking, yes, I got it. But it's more to be complacent. And then they may go out and teach, but actually not really quite being in conscious touch with what is, just being convinced of a certain teaching and then teaching that. And so it's with the sadhaks, if we start to have ideas, then we can be very convinced about a certain state, or if we are open, then in a way you feel always like you're just a beginner because there is that infinity beyond wherever you are.
Yeah, just that's why I love so much being with children, small children and babies,
Right,
because they have this purity and yeah.
right. They have not started to question it. And then when the intellect comes more and more, this is looked at as something inferior to them, and the intellect is more important. That's what we
Yeah.
all have done, and we have to learn to have that innocent purity again that we all had when we were little babies.
Yeah, when I'm with my grandchildren, I'm able to go back there sometimes
Yeah,
when I play with them. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah. Okay, Werner, that was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Okay. Is now anybody there who wants to come in to say something? You can do so. It doesn't seem to be the case, but when Leora came in, I saw that you were lighting up the camera again, Andrea. So if you like, you can as well come in again.
One second. I can. What's the difference between dogs and cats, who can be very natural and very relaxed, and the state you are talking about for humans? Is it that we get like, if we go there, we are like self-conscious that of the beingness?
Right. I mean, in a way, dogs and cats and other animals, they have that advantage of us, that they just naturally, they are very intense, very active, they stop and relax and just can do so within a moment. You see that little guy there back? No. I'm not getting it. Anyhow, there.
Yeah.
There. See?
Yeah.
He's just lying there, totally relaxed. If another dog comes and annoys him, then he loses his relaxation. But momentarily, the moment is over, he just relax, and it's naturally there. The thing is, they are conscious. They have feelings. I'm sure they have thoughts, but it's still functioning very on an instinctive level. And we have one thing more. We are conscious of being conscious. We are conscious of being alive. Life. We are conscious of having thoughts and feelings. They are not simply instinctively happening. This can be a curse that possibility that consciousness is self-reflective is a curse if we misuse it, like everybody most of the time is doing it, then creating that me image. And then once this is established, that capacity to be self-consciousness, self-reflective, that after that everything turns around, that me, I, me, mine. From the moment one wakes up till we go to sleep, it's always going around that me story, which creates a lot of tension, a lot of pain, a lot of difficulties that a cat or a dog simply never have. But it has also that possibility. If we use that capacity, that possibility of turning consciousness back on itself, on its source, that self-reflection is not on an image, but comes back to the source, then there is that possibility that the experience of that is expanding, and the potential of it in a human form is simply totally staggering. It's amazing, that potential that a dog and a cat in that form simply don't have. They are living their life in many ways much happier because they are not burdening themselves with all the worries that we are burdening ourselves, misusing that self-reflection of the consciousness by being busy with that me personality. But if we direct that back to the source, the possibility that is opening because of that is simply amazing.
Is there a way to describe the process that, I mean, you said you didn't want to talk so much about enlightenment, but like what is happening, or are there different like steps, or maybe not very clearly distinctive, but like that certain things are happening, and or in the way that there are also difference between like the teachers. For example, I remember some years ago, Christopher Titmus was making a meeting with you and Muji in the Shiva Shakti Road, and he had like written out questions and was reading the questions, and then you and Muji had to answer, and then he himself answered the questions. And I had a very distinctive feeling that the answers from you and Muji had a different quality than the answers of Christopher Titmus. In a way, I mean, maybe this makes it now difficult to answer it, because you don't want to bash someone, but yeah, there was a different feeling about it. That like, yeah.
Well, maybe also because he has written down the question, so he was already prepared. Anyhow, let's not dwell on that evening that has happened there. But you're asking again, in a way, is there a map? And there is not really a map, because the minds are different. And so the steps that are happening for an individual are different from one to another. Now, individuals, they go into a traditional school and try to adjust to those steps that are being given. And many of those, they are simply attracted because they somehow have a resonance in them. And for some time, it may be all right to really be in that feeling. Now I'm going clearly, step after step, clearly mapped out the path to enlightenment. Eventually, they may have to detach from that. But people who are then seeing that, but don't feel that resonance, don't feel attracted to this kind of path. But if you ask me generally, are there steps, are there then no, yes, there are steps, but they are different from one to another because the story is unfolding different. So it's not that we have to learn those steps and then go ahead.
No, I didn't mean like before, like a big shift happens, like afterwards. For example, I have been listening to a talk by Adyashanti,
Mhm.
and I cannot really recollect it very well, but he said first there's like a big opening where you maybe feel at one with everything,
Mm.
and then it's this changes in a way, or um, there's yeah, there's still a sense of duality in it, and at a at a certain point, then you the duality goes away, and you feel like you're everything. So there seemed to be some involvement in that. So I I want to hear it in your words. I
I
thought.
see. And I'm not going to really satisfy you because also on that level, that unfolding process may be different. But one thing is very, very advisable for everyone who really has a sincere big shift, that first rather keeps a low profile and not goes out and proclaims their shift and their enlightenment and stuff, because there is a new personality that stands in the way formed. But keep also at that moment, enjoy the new perspective, enjoy the new vastness, enjoy that you don't feel so locked in, but then keep that alertness and keep that sincerity and openness. And then also on that level, things will unfold differently. You cannot so this and this and this has to happen. Wherever you are, your best advice is not to look for steps and what is happening and what should now happen next, but be as sincerely aware of yourself, what is happening in the mind, in the emotions, in the feelings, and where am I putting obstacles, where am I holding on to that dead weight that has been there all the time that I want to drop, and drop that as good as you can, and then wait and see what happens. And from whatever happens, you continue in the same way. Don't stop.
Yeah, the background of my question was also to have a little bit maybe. I'm always wondering. There are so many Gurujis in Tiruvannamalai, especially like in January,
Yes.
and some. Yeah, and I just trust my feeling by now mostly. Like some of them feel very fraught. Like one or two guys, I have yeah the idea that maybe they're just trying to make money, and other people feel very good and sincere. And so I just thought maybe there are different stages. I mean, I don't think anybody is really setting out with the clear, like, to do a scam, and it's just to do that to make money. But people are maybe there are different stages, and people some are fooling themselves, and other gurus may be very good. So I just thought I get a little bit orientation about that.
Yeah, but you don't have to now somehow get your things clear in the sense that after that you can say this one is like this and this one is like that, and put them all in a drawer and in a hierarchy. Just what you did is the right thing. Then listen to your heart, and if people tell you come there is a satsang, and you feel attracted, you can go. And if you feel if you are open and you feel it has enriched your experience, then you have been in the right place for that moment. And without too much wondering exactly where the teacher is. But if you don't feel like going somewhere, and even if people say, oh, it's so fantastic, then listen to what you feel and not what people say, without necessarily wanting to judge the teacher or putting them in any category. You just accept, okay, it's not my thing, it's not for me. Or even if you first feel attracted and you go there and you feel, it's not it's not at all flowing, then you have the right to say, okay, it's not my cup of tea. I just could take rather a bow around it. And that's it. And some other people who have another set of problems to struggle with, and they may go to the same teacher and may still at that point get in that satsang get a pointer that is helpful for them. At the end, it always depends our own sincerity. If you are sincerely longing for truth, if you are sincerely on the way to reality, then somehow the external situations are adjusting, that we are getting the pointers that we are needing. And then maybe we stay with a teacher for some time, or we just have a little connection and get the pointer we need and we move ahead. Everything is possible, every story is different, but if that sincerity is there, the necessary supports and directions and pointers will be there at the right time. And then let the teacher be wherever they are.
Yeah, so no consumer report about like gurus.
No, I'm not going to do that. Okay, shall we leave it at that?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Hari Om, Hari Om. All right. Let's stop the satsang for today. I think this is an important aspect. An important aspect to understand. I'm always saying you cannot understand truth, but we can understand certain things on the way to truth, on the way where we are learning to get rid of untruth. If somebody feels attracted and inspired, reading about the tradition and all the different stages one has to go through, then it's the right thing for them. But if we don't feel we need that, then we don't have to somehow create that. Just connect with the essence. Here, now. It is never far away. It's not that after a long struggle, going step by step by step, finally we are reaching that essential truth, that essential existing. It's that which makes the experience possible now. It is here, it is now, it is never far away. Connect with that. And then we have all our little bag of mental stuff that we are carrying along. And if we sincerely, honestly look at it, we start to recognize it and can drop it. And this happens in very different ways for different people. Their minds are functioning different, their stuff they are carrying along is different, what they need as a remedy is different, but the essence is just that we let go of all that stands in the way to be just naturally here now. And the touchstone is our sincerity. It's not that we have to look out and say, when I see this, that shows. Sometimes it may be very helpful and inspiring, like little pointers that see, after all, seeing what has happened in this situation, how I'm dealing with it now. Obviously, something is going on. The sadhak who practices and practices may think this is nothing compared to all the practice, all the energy that I give into the story. But when we are in that process, then most of the time we cannot really recognize what's going on. But still, if we sincerely connect, there is continuously a process going on, an adjusting process, a building up of energy where it is necessary, letting go of unnecessary stuff that we are carrying along, and then eventually, suddenly, something opens, and we become aware, okay, all the time something has happened, but we need not look for confirmations. If we have an honest, good look at ourselves, then we see, okay, the burden is getting lighter. I can easier let go. We can easier relax. And in that more natural, relaxed existence, also it happens much easier that the joyousness of existence simply bubbles up to the surface. And the life becomes more richer, more lightful, lighter in both ways, with less stuff that we are carrying along, less that the attention is pulled into these dark moods. That in itself is a clear indication. Without creating steps, without comparing. Some other people may have mastered things that we are still struggling with. They may still struggle with things that we are not more struggling with. Just be sincere, be honest with yourself. That is what is needed. And then we can need not look out for a feedback, for confirmation, because that confirmation comes in our own experience. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.